pretty sure you're as delighted and excited about the first speeches and things we heard, all the inputs. And I'm pretty sure that Coca-Cola, HSBC, and also Astra were participating in this survey as well, because there were so many inputs where I said, yeah, that's exactly what currently the companies are struggling with and coping with. So the headline of our global human capital trends is turning tensions into triumphs. That's quite a bold statement, but bear with me, I'm going to explain it in a little bit. The second part is easier to understand, helping leaders transform uncertainty into opportunity. I think that's quite obvious. And as we were talking this morning, I think that we all agree that there is lots of uncertainty out there. And that's also why uncertainty, which is negatively connoted very often, also brings lots of room for opportunities. And I think that's the way we should deal with it. Before I go into the content, just a couple of quick stats and facts on the human capital trends of Deloitte. That's a consecutive series we are doing for over a decade now. So every year we are reaching out to business leaders, HR leaders, and ask them what's on their agenda, what's the challenges they're facing, etc. And this year we managed to get input from nearly 10,000 executive leaders and HR leaders. And we were in addition conducting interviews with workers, managers and executive to also find out potential gaps between the perception of the leadership on one hand and the workers' reality on the other one. And coming to the topic of the tensions. So I'm pretty sure you remember Ashu talking about not being a musician, potentially also next year not being a musician. I'm lucky enough to call myself an amateur musician, and tensions is also something, and that's why I do the analogy here, which is quite popular in jazz. So I'm playing saxophone in a jazz band, and it's a lot about improvisation, and different to myself, I'm doing these tensions, so playing notes in a solo outside the scale by accident, because I'm not that good. But the real pros, actually, they do intentionally putting tensions, so playing wrong tones in their solos in order to keep the audience interesting, listening, exciting, but also getting that relief if the tension is resolved. And I think the big difference between the pros and myself is that a pro is not doing this by accident, but intentionally, and he's playing with the tension. He's also embracing this tension. So it's a big chance for them. And I think that's also what we should see. And if I put or translate this into the business, based on all the internal and external factors we are dealing with, we do find out that there is lots of tensions that need to be coped with. And based on the fact that we are in these uncertain times currently, it's a huge, huge effort and also challenge for our leaders to deal with these tensions. And it's quite, in theory here, augmentation, automation, personalization, standardization, so don't care about this, I'm coming to that in a second. But the main message here is, it's not about either or, it's and or. And the same thing is that there is no one right answer to that one. So it's really about finding this balance between the relationship of your workers and the organization, between what you as a company must do in order to be sustainably competitive, serving your customers, and also provide a safe space for your employees. Because also what we heard in the morning, AI, augmented AI, digital twins, etc., this is good news on one hand, but on the other hand, I think it's also quite scary for our employees. And that's exactly where we need to find this balance, and also knowing that there is no right or wrong answer, and that makes the life of our leadership even more complicated. And the interesting fact is that due to the enormous speed and pace of all these changes, we are not in the position, or our leadership is not in the position anymore to just say, well, then I'm not taking any decision. Taking decisions in times of uncertainty, which is pretty difficult and hard to do. But the clear message is to say, we need to take decisions, we need to find the balance, even if we adjust at a later point in time. But it's currently more bringing a disadvantage to not taking decision, to not start with AI, to not deal with Eightfold, to not do whatever comes with the digital twins than to take a decision and potentially adjust it over time. And I think that's also the message we need to bring to our employees to say, well, it is times of uncertainty. We take over the responsibility, but believe us, we are taking decisions seriously. We are taking decisions based on good and solid data, not the data we have, but the data which is relevant in order to take a proper decision. We involve stakeholders in order to get our decisions, and we take the decisions at the right level and also with the right skills. And translating this into more practical examples, all these tensions address three categories: work, workforce, and organization and culture. And if you take the questions of our, or the trends actually, of our global human capital trend study, the basic question about work is the same as Ashu was sharing before, like, what if we would have 1 hour more time? Because lots of things in all these innovational areas we are not doing because we are stuck with meetings, admin work, etc., etc. And I agree with what has been said before. I would prefer the AI doing all this boring stuff, and I'm then free to practice my saxophone or do something more important like working with my employees, etc., instead of having them interviewing people. But that's like, again, a decision, finding the balance, what's the right thing for you, for your organization, in your culture, etc., etc. And unlocking workers' capacity is in many cases just about time. So how do you free up time? How you grant slack time to your people to deal with these topics? Stable identity, purpose for my workers is essential, creating agility for my business. So this tension between agility and also safety or stability is actually leading to that word stagility. So as a company, we need to be agile in order to fulfill our customers' needs, requirements, etc. But agility creates potentially a difficult feeling or anxiety for our employees. So to what extent do we need to offer them stability? So that's an example here. And the same is true for the workforce. Workforce is not people anymore. It's AI, it's digital twins, it's agentic AI and people. So it's not about either or, it's and or, but again, taking your employees seriously, getting their anxieties, address them, also tell them how AI can support them and not taking their jobs away, for example. And that's all the question we do need here. We do need to answer here. The topic of new hires, I think that's also what you find out. Where and how do we get people that join our companies and add value from day one if AI is doing all the basic work? So how do we ensure that AI can help our new hires, or that we have collaborations with university, with other schools, educational institutions, etc., to do proper preparation and educational path for our future employees? That's all answers we could put here. And finally, about organization and culture, performance management. We dealt with this in the morning, right? Performance management, as we are doing it now, is a hell lot of work and no real output or results, right? And standardization, again, the tension is good, but we need personalized performance management. So why not take data that we have from our employees and let agentic AI on a daily basis provide feedback to our employees how they could improve, how they could develop, how they could enhance their careers, etc. That's all things that we can do if we are future thinkers, as mentioned in the morning, and if we're not anxious about doing things. And the last question was quite provocative. Do we still need managers? I would say yes, but only if they are leaders. So we don't need managers for admin work. We don't need managers for the just like sending over tasks and distributing tasks, but we need people who cope and deal with people. And in order to make this even more tangible, I would like to invite Lea and Sona to the stage, because they will share now the real interesting stuff for you. How is this reflected in projects at our customers, also within Deloitte? So happy to have you.
Thanks, Christoph.
Yeah, that's worth of applause. And Sona, I will start with you. So you will share your insights of the 40th project that you did in the US. Can you just quickly elaborate on what is their business model and why is it so unique and complex at the same time?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I had the pleasure to be at Cultivate in the US And Linda and Kara, leaders from Fortive, were our guests on stage to talk about their stories. So I'm here to represent that today. So Fortive is a $6 billion global technology organization. They have over 20 operating companies under their umbrella, and they're focused on safety and efficiency in the industrial and healthcare arenas. And so you can imagine, with over 20 operating companies in such a global organization, there's this tension that we talked about between, standardization and personalization, and certainly looking at transforming their organization. So they really wanted to take a view of a broad HR transformation, and that there's a lot of complexities in that. So how do we navigate that change? They really embarked on this journey to transform by changing the roles and looking at the opportunities for hundreds of HR professionals, looking at the business process alignment, and of course technology and enablement was a part of that. So this tension between wanting to drive innovation and local autonomy, along with the need to start looking at global process and efficiencies, and particularly to start thinking about how to share insights into talent, was one of the big drivers for this. So those all, I think, led to this opportunity for them to embark on this journey. So it's a little bit about their journey. Leah, it'd be great if you can share from a Deloitte Germany perspective what you were considering in terms of your own transformation.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, we do not only implement Eightfold for our external customer, but also we had a special project for our internal talent acquisition team. So we have implemented Eightfold talent acquisition for ourselves, so Deloitte Germany. And there were several reasons, I guess, which led to the Eightfold implementation. One of the reasons, of course, we also want to attract the best talent possible, as you all also want to do. And with the younger generation, which grew up as digital natives, now entering the labor market, they have different skills, but also expectation on the application process. So we also wanted to accommodate for that and adapt our candidate journey. For Deloitte Germany, especially, the challenge is that we receive a huge amount of application, which means with our legacy systems that we have a lot of manual work to do, and we have a huge need for automatizations and maybe even AI assistance. Also, Deloitte Germany wanted to increase their application to offer rate, and there a system is needed which can provide the data inside, as well as an improved user experience for all of them, for the recruiters, the hiring managers, as well as our candidates. We had several disconnected systems then in place, and during the vendor selection we realized that we are reaching the limits of this system, especially when it comes to AI capabilities. So Deloitte then did a vendor selection, and their different use cases were evaluated, and they decided, luckily, for Eightfold. And with Eightfold, they chose not only like a talent acquisition platform, but a unified talent ecosystem. And actually, I have two of my colleagues in the audience today who were part of the implementation project. So if you want to know more about our implementation journey, please feel free to reach out to them. Because with this, with Eightfold, we have also the possibility now to expand it to different modules. We're starting with internal mobility, but also maybe in the future even talent management, succession planning. So we have the chance to expand it further.
Thanks, Leah.
Thanks, Leah, for sharing these insights. Always good to know that what you sell, you also use yourself. I think that's a good message here. Back to you, Sona. So again, about the Fortive project, what was the key success factors in that project?
Yeah, so Leah was talking about the selection for talent acquisition. Fortive actually decided to embark on a much broader solution. So they chose talent acquisition and talent management in concert with a number of other components of the ecosystem to bring to life their new HR transformation process. So that included enablement of global service delivery centers and the engagement of business process leaders as well. So some of the success factors were really thinking about the change management that would be needed. So making sure that you were anchoring on the business value for every part of the process step, and then aligning to these various user segments, that change journey. And some of the themes that you'll hear are the importance of calibration, for example, and we'll talk about the business outcomes for that. But it was a really central message to think about a change in mindset. what recruiters were typically used to doing in terms of their day-to-day business activities, and now really thinking about how we would be able to leverage the AI components. And they're very powerful, and Eightfold brings tremendous capabilities to the forefront for users. And users need to also participate in that journey and invest as well. So we know that the AI will continue to improve over time, and we need our users to be investing in the change in their business processes and commitment to some of the changes like doing calibration and using it to be strategic at the front end.
So there was also soft topics actually that drove them, like, or that considered change, expectation management, et cetera, et cetera. Very cool. Leah, as we are in Europe, in London today, out of the Deloitte project, any specifics that you would see in comparison to a global project that we need to consider in the European or even German markets in Eightfold projects?
Yeah, I do think we have a couple of different aspects when we look at especially the German or the DACH region, where we have the Workers' Council, which needs to be informed. We have GDPR, we have also now the EU AI Act, which are all topics which drives the complexity of such a project and need to be accounted into the project plan. For us, this means, and we are trying our best to incorporate it in the plan from the beginning, that we have the timelines for internal and compliance approvals, that we start from the start of the project with the key decision makers involved, so that we have enough time to get all the approvals ready for go live. And I guess this is also a lessons learned we had from this project. So for all our customer, we're really trying to push this topic and also to closely monitor it so that we have a success there. Apart from that, also, I guess what was mentioned before is the data quality. So of course, what data you're putting in will influence the output. And here we need to see in the beginning, okay, what data you have available as a customer, and what maybe is also the quality and what needs to be done to improve it. And so my favorite part, calibration. As you all know, we can calibrate position, roles, even succession plans. So this is a huge part which needs to be done in the project, because this influences the match score, the recommendation, and overall how the system works. So for Deloitte Germany, what we did, we actually had a period between the technical go-live and the business go-live, and this was also one of the reasons why we have splitted the go-lives, where recruiter came into the system and calibrate their positions while the system wasn't live to the external candidates. This had the advantage that we had our main position calibrated until go live. So goal was not to calibrate all of them. This is anyways an ongoing topic after go live, but we had the main positions ready, and now the goal is after go live to revisit them, to recalibrate it, to check them after a couple months and finish the other ones. And yeah, from a really implementation view, I guess, as I'm doing the implementation myself, often we get lost in the features and functions bit. So here it's good maybe to take a step back and see, okay, what is really the business value we are bringing, and not to get lost in some edge cases which hardly appear but drives up the complexity and maybe also the timeline.
Yeah, thanks. And I think we've learned that also in the AstraZeneca HSBC talk, that there is quite a significant difference between the technical go-live and the business go-live, right? So there is something that brings lots of additional work still on the client side then at the end of the day, because the technical implementation is only part of the success at the end of the day. So thanks for the insights. Let me quickly wrap it up basically before we also open up the floor for a couple of questions. So out of what I'm hearing is, I think the first main message is always start with the why. So it's not technology, but it's really like, what's my business case, what's my challenge, what's my requirements, what is the business needing, and is it also like substantial. So if I'm looking to do something that's happening one time a year, I potentially don't need any technology for it. So it's really about like this massive impact topics we're dealing with. And it's also not about features, functions, it's more about, I would even call it user stories, because otherwise, if we wanna like be future thinkers, it's too narrow, right? If we start with a process and we say, well, that's the process, and now we bring it just to Eightfold, you won't win anything. Second one is, again, the musician example, embrace the tension. So make use of it, don't be afraid of it or scared of it. and don't just simply resolve it to come to the next point. I know we as Germans, we are quite well known for being to the point, being strict, sorry, etc. I know this famous quote from Rainer Strack, who worked in the States once for a US customer, and the customer then said, well, send me over more of the Germans, they work like machines. I think that's not the way we should look for. Let's do AI, having done this stuff, and we focus on the people topics, actually. And that's also one topic, as a wrap-up, I would like to share. Don't allow yourself to be dazzled by fancy technology. Everything looks nice, especially agentic AI. But this is a journey, this is a transition, this is not plug it in and it works, because the data is not there, the large language model is not trained, and that's not a bad thing unless you also set expectations correctly. And you say, well, this is a journey, it's not, we are doing a project, we're going live, and now everything is better and green and we don't touch it anymore. You will touch it all life long. So that's also a part of agility I want to point out. And the fourth topic is, don't forget that any successful business transformation is always requiring people and technology, because it's at scale. That's why we need enabling technology, but we also need people. And only if people and technology act in a fruitful coexistence, this is what makes the huge business transformation happen. Because without adoption, you gained nothing. You're paying another system, subscription costs, etc. You need to get the value out of it. And that starts with people seeing the benefits, accepting the system, and actually make use of it in order to free time for other things.
Christoph, if I could share some
Absolutely.
of the benefits that Fortive was able to achieve through this investment and the alignment of the people, the process, and the technology. You know, when you think about internal mobility, oftentimes there are cultural barriers that can inhibit that. And so you really need to think about those as you're going through this process of putting in the technology to increase visibility into opportunities. And that was really Fortive's goal. They wanted to bring to light opportunities across the organization. And although they had a strong culture of internal mobility, there were a lot of barriers in place to that. Some of those were process, some of those were technology. I think Sue mentioned this morning that LinkedIn was the common source to understand internal employees for Coca-Cola before their Eightfold implementation. Similar story at Fortive. They had a lot of disparate systems. So by putting in place the Eightfold solution with talent intelligence and the Career Hub, they saw dramatic results. So they had individuals going into basically indicate what their career goals were. They had significant repeat visits to the site. Over 75% of the courses that people were enrolling in were aligned to the business goals that they had entered in the solution. So it's really empowering individuals to take charge of their career, and I think we see that in terms of engagement results going up significantly. So great results from an internal mobility perspective. Over 30% of their hires now are coming from their internal pool, and they find that internal hires are being hired at a 45% higher rate than externals. So we know individuals who we bring in from our organization hit the ground running faster, they typically tend to perform better, so there's so many benefits to that. And we still need to hire externally. Certainly bringing in new talent, diversifying our pool and meeting our goals is really important. And so they saw dramatic results from a recruiting perspective, a talent acquisition outcomes perspective. And one of the keys to that was back towards calibration and match score. So what they saw as more and more roles were calibrated, they saw the results going up, so the people that were applying tend to have a higher match score. Anyone with a 4 or higher match score was actually, they were able to start fulfilling their jobs more quickly, so they saw great improvements in time to fill, and certainly in terms of some of their other outcomes as well. So like Christoph was mentioning, this is a journey, investing on the ongoing optimization and the enablement of the organization is going to pay a lot of rewards.
And I think there is nothing you can lose, you only can win, but you need to be on it and don't see it as a single project. As it's your event also, we would really love to open up the floor. We have 2 minutes 40 left, so that's hardly tracked here. Now it's only 35, so yeah, and thanks for volunteering for the first question. Here we go.
Thank you very much for your insight. My question is about the new generation.
Thank you so much. So my name is Maria. I'm the founder of Your Skills. We are helping underrepresented skilled professionals give more visibility of their potential. And my question is, do you see an issue with the new generation, especially Gen Z, coming to the workforce, and they are the adopters of this AI and technology, and if the organization is not catching up, they feel demotivated, and like, what are your insights on retaining such talent and adopting them to your workforce?
Yeah. Well, I think that's why the ability to use the platform is so powerful, because we are able to provide an experience that is very engaging and insightful. So a lot of it is driven by data, but you have to understand that the user experience is critical. So to your point, digital natives, as Leah was saying, was a driver for some of the changes we're doing within Deloitte to our technology. But looking at the audience across generations, if you can make the experience engaging and almost fun, right, and provide really the AI insights to why an opportunity is a match for them, rather than people having to do a lot of complicated search and old style methods, it really is going to speak to a different
and retaining is already the good part. Getting them initially is the hard part. And like, if you look at that generation, they're applying differently. They are not looking at job boards. They say, well, that's my profile, offer me the jobs that I'm fitting into, yeah.
And I think one of the interesting aspects of that is oftentimes they're being served up opportunities that they don't even know that they're eligible for,
yeah.
right? And so that's a really key, I think, benefit of this type of a strategy. We've seen great use cases of individuals who are interested in an organization. They think they know the direction they want to head in based on their previous experience or skills. And then they're presented other opportunities, and it really opens their eyes.
We have time for one quick second question. Yeah, that's potentially not to be answered in 10 seconds, but I think that the quick answer is that definitely the absolute minimum requirement prerequisite is having dynamic skill libraries, etc. And again, this has been brought back to data quality, and also the data amount that you have available. And I think that's also really very often a differentiator between the different vendors, to say, well, if there is not much data in there, it's not as strong as the other product, and again, it's not ready to use. And that's, I think, the misperception that many clients have, to say, well, now I'm investing in this or that technology, I would have expected much more from the data lake and the data quality. But it's just generic. It helps you in some parts. In other parts, you really need to also feed in your data, help training the LLM, etc. Yeah.
I would say don't wait to get started, though. Some people are paralyzed by needing to create a skills ontology or taxonomy, or they maybe already are on that journey with their organization to have multiple taxonomies, and they worry, how will we bring all of this together? So we've seen great success for organizations who just get started. Really, the foundational data that Eightfold has, with representation over half the world's workforce, and the future-ready capabilities, so you can look at rising and declining skills. You can see, in comparison to other industries or other competitors in your own industry, all of these insights help our HR professionals, our data professionals, look and align it for your own organizational needs. But there's a great foundation. Don't be paralyzed by needing to have everything perfect. I think we heard that message earlier today. Don't let perfect be, prevent you from making progress.
Thanks for your interest. We hand it over. We have a booth out there. We are around the day. The colleagues are there. I'm happy to answer your question. And if you're interested, feel free to download the Human Capital Trends of 2025. It's brand new.
Yes, absolutely. Our trends are insightful, and we always try to tie them together with practical applications, as you heard here today. So we're partnering with Jason Serrato on a Human Capital Trends series that we're doing, so look for that online. Our first one launched a few weeks ago, and also the full Fortive presentation that we did in California will be released later this week on the Eightfold site. So more directly from them if you're interested.
Thanks both. Thank you very much.